soft language barrier, the child of an immigrant. Before the banh mi trucks were cool, unstable embarrassment. That scene with the border guard last night on a continent. What was the view like knowing that you might never come back again? There are so many things I should have asked of you. Sometimes family trees cut cruel. What did you make of Tennessee in 1988, all covered in snow? Winter my little brother was born. We carried him up the hill to our home. I wish I had taken French a little more seriously. I remember singing to you when you were dying in Saint Denis. There are so many things I should have asked you then. Sometimes songs don't get a nice end. That's where you clap. This is not a lecture. I think my, let's see here. Okay.
Can we get the keys down a little bit in the monitors? I think.
Did those blow up?
Yeah, sound a little. Yeah.
All right, folks. This is a dissertation in disguise. That's what we're doing here. My name is Julian. This is my wife, Amelia. I assure you I have no idea of that polymath that Dennis was speaking of in the introduction, just a folk singer and his wife. We thank you so much for having us, and for those of you who go here, for coming out, teach here, and then I know there's some folks who might have come from a long distance away, and we really appreciate that. So this is the No Boy Project. It'll be an evening of songs that kind of tell a lot of histories. That first song, as you can see behind me, that was a very personal one. Kind of when I do get the chance to teach, which isn't often these days, because I have this guitar in my hand and we're on the road. I do like to teach history by starting small, through individuals, and starting with yourself and kind of blooming out, and at least asking the questions you want to know and going from there. Yeah, it's also, as a songwriter, it's really tough to write the way you might write a history book, like, you know, 1 million people, something bad happened to them. It doesn't work for a song. But if you start small, then you build up, and kind of work on the ground level. That's what songs are really good at. So this first tune we're going to do for you is, I was in Montreal or Toronto, one of those two fine cities up in Canada, and I was watching in a cafe. I was just like hanging out in a cafe, and I was watching the CNN report about ISIS took over the lower third of the Philippines, and it's just like, it's one of many moments in my studies where the past and the present, you know, what I'd been studying historically, a lot of empire in Southeast Asia, and you really can't start any Asian American studies course like I tend to teach without starting with the Philippines, and the contestation of empires over centuries. And this is just kind of the latest one, this sort of extremist religious group sort of taking over these southern islands. And it was like really jarring to see. But it just reminded me of this kind of laundry list of conquerors, from Lopez de Legazpi and the Spanish to Dewey and the Americans coming over, and just all the hidden histories and thousands and millions of people dying in wars and conflicts and stuff. And I wrote a song shortly after. I reworked an old love song. I had a chorus that wasn't doing anything. I just said, "Give me chills." That's kind of what I was feeling. And kind of just had this laundry list of Filipino history proper nouns. And I was teaching a class at Brown at that time because I was a TA or I was a grad student. They made us teach a class. And I would basically use that class as a captive audience to test my new songs on. Poor kids. And one of my most rambunctious students, I'll curse a few times tonight, so just warning you if you're very sensitive to that kind of language. She said, man, that's like a really fucked up love letter to the Philippines. So this is for that kid and history. Give me rhyme for no reason. Give me the world for a start. Give me all the treason you might carry in your heart. Give me life fantastic. Get me over the hill. Until the day I go, give me chills.
Give me seas of blue waves tangled around my hands. Give me sand and soft shoes, evenings with the band.
Sing me songs so classic, like cherry cola thrills. Lips on glass, not plastic, I know you will. Give me trial without jury. Give me Imelda Marcos' shoes. Give me another century to make it up to you. Hear of the Sangley Rebellion. Some say 20,000 killed. 16 and 03. Give me chills. Give me Dewey in Manila. Give me the pearl of the Orient. Give me the USS Olympia. 9 ships heaven sent. Skype me Christmas Eve from Doha. Toast me New Year's from Crown Hill. If we never get back home, give me chills. Give me rhyme for no reason. Give me a Balik Bayon box. Give me Coca-Cola, Chuck Taylors and an Apple Watch. Give me your Asian manhood. Give me Duterte's sober will. Black flags in Marawi. Give me chills. Thank you. That's the proper response when someone sings you a song. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here. This is really a school project gone awry. I'd been researching these histories for a while. I was a musician. That's I think my thing. Yeah, and I had done that in my teens and 20s, putting out records and touring all over North America and Europe. And then I just kind of fell ass backwards into academia somehow. And 10 years later, I've got too many letters out behind my name, and I'm back to being a folk singer, just an overeducated folk singer. And it is an absolute pleasure to be able to play for a room full of folks and share these songs, because this is actually my dissertation. There was some writing, but the whole point was that, maybe there's some really important stories to tell. There definitely are in what we study, at least what I thought I was researching. I wanted to tell them to more people than the 2.5 people that would read my dissertation. And I won't call out the half person on that committee. And I remember I was at this academic conference in 2016 in Washington D.C. This is November 2016 in Washington D.C. If you recall your recent history, that was a very heavy moment for someone of my political ilk. And I remember walking by the White House with, like, in my head, sad Charlie Brown music playing behind me. And it was a lovely conference. I think it's called the Society of Ethnomusicologists, and or ethnomusicology, and it was one of these humanities conferences where we all get together from around the country and we decry the plight of marginalized peoples under Hilton chandelier ballrooms. It was really great. I was delivering this paper, and there was like 30 people there. And for you academics, that's like a sold out crowd for an academic paper at a conference. And I was just sitting there holding the mic and talking through this interesting history that I was researching. And I thought, man, when I used to have a guitar in my hand, we could draw way more of a crowd than this. And I thought, I really want to tell some of these stories, because these are stories that a lot of people don't know. So I started singing them. And this next song, actually, it came to me from that aforementioned class, from one of the students in that class. I was walking in one day, and these two Cambodian American gals, Nicolina and Madhavan, to paint you a picture of just lovely, rambunctious, high-energy kids, about not even 5 feet tall. And they were sitting there and they're talking back and forth, and Nicolina was saying, yeah, I was talking to my dad last night on the phone. I was talking to my best Camerican. And I always, as a songwriter, I keep a book of like cool words to put into songs, is what it says on the cover. And Camerican, I like the K sounds, I like the consonants in that. And I said, oh, that's a great song title. And then I was like, wait, what does that mean? And here I am teaching an Asian American Studies class, and very ignorant, which kind of shows you the sort of lack of knowledge in some areas of this very large continent. We teach a lot of East Asian histories, East Asian American histories, but not so much the other parts. And they looked at me, these two Cambodian girls, and they were like, you idiot. Like, Khmer, Khmer, that's our culture. Khmerican, that's like our Spanglish. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And I said, that'd be a great song title. And they said, yeah, write it. And I said, okay. Semester goes by, I have totally forget about this. They corner me in the hallway 2 weeks before finals are due. And they say, hey, have you written Khmerica yet? They're like looking up at me because they're very small. And I say, I have not. And I felt bad. And then I thought, wait, have you done your final projects yet? So we made a trade. And I said, I need something to write about. I'm Vietnamese. I'm not Cambodian. In fact, our countries have historically been at odds with each other for centuries sometimes. And you got to give me something, Nicolina. And so she gave me this incredible set of paintings, one of which I'll show you. It's beautiful digital scans of all these oil paintings. They're memories of someone who had to leave this country, Cambodia. And it's just the most beautiful memories, the symbol of this country, the Angkor Wat temples, at the most beautiful times of day, sunset and sunrise. And this struck me because my mother's a painter. My mother's a painter from Vietnam. And when she started to paint a lot when I was a little kid in oils, she wouldn't paint napalm, she wouldn't paint bombs, she wouldn't paint the explosions she remembers walking through Saigon in the cafes, she wouldn't paint the soldiers, she would paint her neighborhood in beautiful summer light. That was really interesting to me. And not only did Nicolina give me these paintings, but she gave me this 30-minute conversation that she was working out of for her final project. It was a conversation with her father, the painter of these paintings. And it was something very relatable to me. It was all these impossible questions of a kid of an immigrant, kid of a refugee, wanting to ask about this really dark period, asking about a guy who survived the American war in Southeast Asia and all these bombings and Vietnamese aggression against his people, had to move around. Imagine that, right? Having to move because of war. It's rough. And then surviving one of the worst genocides in the history of the world, in which a quarter of the population was killed. And he was in those camps where they'd kill you just for wearing glasses. So a lot of you would be fucked. That's what he lived through. But he wouldn't talk about that because he's a good father. Why would you go through all of that trouble of escaping this to raise your daughter in this country with all this opportunity and put that burden on them? But at the same time, that's a burden she wanted. That's a burden I wanted for my mother. And there was something successful in just the asking of those impossible questions. And there was one moment in this interview I listened to over and over, because that's how I write these songs. Just kind of have my headphones on, or I'm looking at archives, paintings like this, and seeing what comes mixed with the secondary research that I do. Try to put a story together. And he said vaguely about war, said things about war, but he said something. He said, we had a cow named Horse. And that completely changed my perspective. As a scholar, as a songwriter, helped me unflatten this term immigrant and refugee that we've been throwing around nonstop in our media recently. Now, these are all individuals who have stories like that, of a cow named Horse, and that's what they want to bring when they come. Everyone's different, but he reminded me a heck of a lot of my mom, and so I wrote this song, Comerica, for Nicolina and her dad, and it goes like this. Some nights I'm a tourist to my kind. Landscape caught within a frame, a glimpse of another side. Call you in my best American. Painter, pick up your round brush and fill the details in. Be my eyes, be my eyes. Cracked paint, a place enchanted, the colors of your life. Sunsets playing on the temple, and you who survive. Be my eyes, be my eyes. Some kids move because their parents take new jobs. Some kids move because of napalm. Cracked paint, a place enchanted, the colors of your life. Siem Reap bathed in golden umber, and palm trees climb so high. Sunsets playing on the temple, and you who survive. Be my eyes, Father, oh, be my eyes. Be my eyes, Father, oh, be my eyes. Be my eyes, Father, oh, be my eyes. I can play that old music now. We can dance to all the old songs, but I'll never walk with you through it. What a cruel, cruel test to belong. Ye said the moon ain't sitting right when you wanted to marry Mom. Be my eyes, Father, oh, be my eyes. Be my eyes, Father, oh, oh, be my eyes. All right. How you doing tonight? Great? All right. Some depressing shit we're going to go through, so just keep that up. Yeah, again, thanks so much for having us out here. This is the beginning of the last big national tour we're going to do. My eternal thanks to my partner and wife, Amelia, because she is putting off the last semester of law school to do this tour and be here with you, which is a very wonderful treat for you, I assure
Really
you.
my pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great. This is the first date. Next couple months we'll be on the road visiting other universities and then some just normal music clubs where I don't have to talk academically at all, which is good. But this next song is super academic. A lot of times, most of the time, all these songs are based off the research that I do, archival stuff or ethnography, going to places, learning stuff, oral histories, that kind of thing. But this comes from a particular scholar who happens to be one of my very best friends in the world. It's a kid named Diego. So I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, this magical land where you get an acoustic guitar when you're born. So I have this. And Diego does the most interesting research. And we met, if this isn't depressing enough for you, in a Holocaust history course where all best friends meet at Brown University. And I was talking to some kid. It was like the first week of class, and we were just saying, you know, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Nashville. And across the room, this guy goes, I'm from Nashville too, because they only let, I think, 2 of us every 10 years into the Ivy League from Tennessee. So it was great to meet Diego. And it turns out, this is wild. He was like, hey, where'd you go to high school? I said, Hume Fogg. He said, I went to Hume Fogg. Well, this is wacky. Same PhD program, same high school. Where'd you go to middle school? Harding Academy. I went to Harding Academy. Diego is also of mixed background. He's he's Afro-Cuban Chinese, Jewish, so he's even more mixed up and messed up than I am. And we get along really well. He's basically little me. He's like 7 years younger than me. And we became fast friends because we both have an obnoxious sense of humor that would almost get us canceled at Brown. Did not quite. We got out. And we did all these journeys together where we'd study history and have adventures in Europe and all across America, down here in Texas quite a bit. And Diego just put out this incredible book called The First Asians in the Americas. If you're interested in this kind of history that I'm talking about, you have to get this. Every Asian American, every Trans-Pacific class should start with this book. See, I thought, well, I didn't think much growing up in Nashville. Diego and I went to the aforementioned Harding Academy. We really didn't learn history except for the Civil War over and over and over again. Our school was named after a Confederate general. We lived on the old plantation land, or the school was on the old plantation land. And we went to the old plantation house for field trips every semester. And this was back when they called the slave quarters servant houses. It's tough, man. It's tough back in the 90s to learn something in Tennessee. So I didn't really learn much except for the Civil War over and over, and I still wasn't quite sure who won for my education. And so I didn't learn about like even the Chinese coming over for the gold rush or working on the railroads, and I certainly didn't learn about like Japanese American internment camps until I went to grad school in Wyoming in my late 20s. Diego pushes all of even those early histories back to the 1500s, talking about all these Filipinos and other Southeast Asians and South Asians and East Asians coming over as slaves and servants on these Spanish galleon ships that were taking goods from China to Acapulco. And then some of these folks would be exploring in these Spanish crews up and down the coast, the West Coast, from Acapulco up to California. Talking 1500s. Completely blew my mind. And he texted me one day from an archive in Sevilla, in Spain, where all the old colonial papers are. And Amelia and I now live in Portland, Oregon. And he said, dude, with like 7 U's. We're very informal when we text. He said, dude, I'm in the archive. I just found the captain's list, ship log, this Vizcaíno guy. And the first people to ever see Oregon, at least like substantiated on record, there were 7 Asian dudes on that crew, like your home state. It's like amazing. And so Amelia and him and I went down to where this sighting was, the first people to ever see Oregon, non-native people to ever see Oregon, in 1603. 200 fucking years before Lewis and Clark, right? And this incredible white manifest destiny iconography that our state is known for. Before the Oregon Trail was even an idea, there was these Asian sailors coming from the Philippines and Japan and China. And there was even a dude who came all the way from India, from Malabar. And I think about him, right? I think about that sailor. And this is when the world looked like this, when California was an island, and sea monsters existed. And the Spanish would go around, they were looking for gold, but they're also planting a cross and reading the Requerimiento, and basically just saying, God now has this land because of us, and we'll kill any native people we see if you don't convert or whatever. It's just brutal, batshit crazy, this intense, violent Catholicism. And I thought about all these people who in the captain's log, all these Asians dudes, who did not have their old names. They all had Spanish names, right? I'm thinking about these journeys. This guy, Anton Tomas, the dude from Malabar, he was a diver on these ships. So he was doing the most dangerous stuff. He was diving into the waves and cutting ropes if they got stuck on something. And how do you get from India to the Philippines to Acapulco to Oregon in one lifetime in 1603? That alone is a history course. This one guy, thanks to Diego, uncovering him in the archive. And I thought about that. And I thought about the 5-month journey it took to get from the Philippines to Acapulco. And even before that, how does this guy get there? Probably on a Portuguese ship. He's probably enslaved or indentured servant. He probably goes from India and then to like a Portuguese settlement like Macau in China. And then he goes over to the Philippines. And it's just amazing. Years of this guy's life. And along the way, he loses his name. He gets a new religion, this psychotic version of Catholicism on a boat. It's like cruise Catholics, sort of. And as someone who was raised Catholic, this really just blew my mind. So I just sat down with this ship list, and we went down to the coast, and I read the captain's log, and Diego told me the history. And I just sat in the sand on the beach with my acoustic guitar and wrote this song about, someone maybe taking this new religion very seriously, praying, having mass on board, while half the crew is dying around you on average. Can you imagine that, taking a cruise and half the people die? This was the world when sea monsters existed and California was a fucking island. So that's what this song's about. It's called 1603, and it's completely indebted to Diego. If you're a teacher who teaches any of this stuff, assign his book. Sailed as far from Malabar as any soul has known. Peaks of snow, a jagged coast, great giants made of stone. 2 months through the Visayas, then 3 beyond the blue. At California's crest turned south, the mouth of hell we crewed only for you. Only for you. Left the bay the 5th of May, then north to San Bernabe. Beneath the tent, the sacrament, the feast was held on Sunday. Indio, Indio, a gift of tiger skin. The Latin Mass, our foreign past, forgive us this, our sin, only for you, only for you, only for you, only for you. Thomas turned back with the ill, Diego kept the cross. A New Year's Day beyond Drake's Bay, the frigata was lost. But north we climbed, morale declined, not even 6 could stand. And through the storm from legend torn, the Strait of Anian, only for you, only for you, only for you, only for you. The floating ghost, the bouldered coast, too weakened to make land. The wind so rose, the lamp oil froze, we never touched the sand. But I believe, oh I believe, the Father and the Son. Oh, claim this coast, oh Holy Ghost, who spoke through prophets' tongues, only for you, only for you, only for you, only for you. I feel brand new, only for you. Thank you. This project is just really an excuse to show old maps, so appreciate you indulging me. So like I said, my mom comes from this place that used to be called Saigon. That you can see this old American war map from the war, and it's a place you can't go back to. Don't even have the same name. It's called Ho Chi Minh City now. Historically speaking, I think a lot more partial to the guy Ho Chi Minh than most of my parents' generation, and for good reason on their side. We have very different politics. It's very complicated, like many immigrant populations. But this next song was written, it's really a lullaby. It's off our new album, Empire Electric, on the Smithsonian Folkways label, for those of you keeping track. And it's, this new album, it shifted a lot because I had finished my PhD and I had no more masters to please with these songs. Nothing left to prove academically. I got this sort of, non-helpful doctor title now, so don't have a heart attack. And there was nothing left, so I got really interested in sound. It wasn't even about the words anymore, and this song is very sparse. There's a few lyrics, just sort of imagistic, thinking about this this really interesting contradiction, like Nicolina's dad in Cambodia, right? Beautiful memories. Life, if you survive, does not stop happening. In fact, you live it harder. I've found in a lot of situations for people who have lived through these wars, which is happening as we speak right now. If you are surviving, a lot of times people are taking this little bit of agency they have and stretching it much further than I do on a daily basis. It's quite instructional. My mom did that. When I asked her about her thoughts on the war, she had mentioned bombs and soldiers and things like this, but really she talked about the the interest of a young woman, of a 16-year-old girl, making clothes, painting her nails, that kind of shit. School stuff, music, ice cream. She loved Cafe Givral. That was a spot I ascertained in Saigon. And so how do you encapsulate that? So I turned to sound a lot. So Amelia has this little robot orchestra over here because I would go to a lot of these sites, whether it was old places in the old country, so to speak, the rainforest, a place near in the Mekong Delta where my mom grew up, or her grandparents had a house. And I'd go to old refugee camps too, just as part of my studying, and I'd bang on old barracks, and I would sample the ambient sounds or the bird sounds or water, or sometimes American artillery fire that they recorded. Horrible sounds, explosions, guns that on the other sides of hearing that, you know someone died. One of my countrymen died. And I thought, it's only honest to put all of these together. The beauty alongside the terror. That's the experience that my mom bestowed upon me. That's the inheritance. And so a lot of these songs on the records, they're just filled. The drums are made out of old historical recordings that I slice up and kind of make into drum kits. And sometimes we make flutes and organs out of voices. I'll ask someone to sing a note like, ooh, and then we'll play that across notes on the piano or the keyboard, and that'll be the background for the song. So we're going to be a little bit more sonically adventurous here and share with you. This song is a lullaby to my mom, her sister, my grandma, my bangwai, for those of you chosen people in the audience. And it's called Mekong Baby. Sail away, Mekong baby, sail away, Mekong baby. You were lovers once. How your charm offensive tasted. And I was younger once. All I own are second guessed. And so it goes. Fighting on the beach, and so it goes. Violence in our tea. Big thanks to Amelia. She will return, but she can only take too much depressing history. So, like I said, growing up in Tennessee, I didn't learn much about this half of me that is quite phenotypically present, being Asian American, and that was tough because I think I was having drinks with two of our hosts last night, and we're sort of talking about sort of like the evolution of college students over time. And it seems to be a very accelerated generation with the COVID shit and the terrible smartphone addiction that we all have. It's like rewiring our brains in this interesting way. But I will say the obnoxious woke stuff I really like, because it would have made it a lot easier for me growing up as a kid in Nashville. There's like this whole thing about, like, people talk about microaggressions and stuff. It's like this word I never heard of when I was a boy. And sometimes, like, I'll hear about this. It's like, what happened? It's like, well, they said this thing. And I was like, okay. And they're like, no, I'm hurt by it. I'm abused by this. I was like, okay. And I was like, just thinking back to when I was a kid and getting punched in the face just for having this face. It was like a real aggression, you know? And that was it growing up. Like these like moments driving around, and these frat boys and high school kids would just berate my mom at stoplights just for looking the way she looks. And that was it. So to say there's a big, I find, generation gap sometimes. But I do, you know, I feel like I meet a lot more well-adjusted, different-looking kids. That's to say non-white kids these days. And I think that's really a godsend. And I came around to this identity stuff, this idea of race, investigating this very late. When I was 27, I moved out to this place, Wyoming, to do my master's degree. And I thought, this is where I was very disillusioned when I went to Brown, because in Wyoming, I thought being a scholar was just climbing mountains and then reading books. That's all I thought it was. I was like, oh, this is a great life. Yeah, I'll be a teacher. This is great. I realized there's a whole professional thing and this, a lot of people to please. And on one of those climbing trips, I saw this picture. And it changed my life. This picture behind me. There's a jazz band. I went to a jazz college. Talk about a waste of money, a jazz college. And and I took like 3 jazz history courses. You probably couldn't even do that here, right? Like take 3 jazz history courses or anywhere besides Berkeley. Not the smart one, the one in Boston. And I never learned about any guys who looked like this, any guys who looked like me. That's to say, dark hair, slanty eyes, get brown in the summer. And here was a whole fucking band of them who played pop music the way that I made a living playing pop music. And it was the first time I kind of felt like I found a lineage. And I began this whole career of studying all these musicians on one side of the Pacific or another, under the thumb of American empire or some other Western empire, making music within the music of their new state if they lived here, or the quote-unquote occupiers or oppressors if they lived there, and doing something fascinating with it. So here's this jazz band. And what's amazing, again, start small. Start with the individual. Start with that guy with the saxophone behind me named Georgie Gawa. You zoom out of here, this is in a barrack in a concentration camp in Wyoming. You zoom out of that barrack, you see barbed wire. You see machine guns and guard towers pointed in, searchlights on at all times. These folks were told during World War II, we're going to round you up. We're going to send you off to these 10 concentration camps across the United States. Stuff I never heard about growing up in Tennessee. And they said, you can take only what you can carry, right? It's 2 suitcases. I fell in love with these guys because I realized, by virtue of this photo existing, that these idiots, when they were told to take only what you can carry, took fucking trombones. These are my people. And I was lucky enough to do all this archival research and find out the songs they played, the kind of arrangements that George, the band leader who put this crew together, the style he would have arranged the music in, mostly like kind of Harry James, Tommy Dorsey kind of big band records. And there was actually 2 members of the band still alive. I got to talk to him. I got to talk to this guy Yone on the phone, the trumpet player in the back center. He was 15 when this picture was taken. He ends up being a veteran, serving in World War II, even though his family's behind barbed wire. Imagine that. And he was a world-class bullshitter. He was just old as fuck, so he just didn't care anymore, and I loved it. He just gave me the scoop on the band, told me about sneaking whiskey. They'd go out, and they were the only band left in Wyoming. So they'd get hired to play like Mormon dances and proms and these places you've never heard of. And they'd sneak whiskey back in, right? And I could relate to this. I know what it's like to be in a bus with a bunch of people bullshitting and killing time for 5 hours on dirt roads between gigs. And I could go that far with them. I knew what it was like to rehearse and get excited about something, but I didn't know what it was like to have to go back to jail after that. And luckily, because Yone actually passed away before I could meet him, there was one person left in this band, this woman named Joy Teraoka. She was Joy Takeshita. She was also a teenager, and she was a singer in this band. And I got a hold of her, I emailed, I interviewed her, called her. That was going to be the end of it, just sort of what we say, interlocutors, subject as an academic. And then she just started emailing me, like random grandma shit. Like, hey, I saw that bad weather's coming through Providence. It's like, yeah, fuck it, I got a phone, I know. But she just kept talking to me. And she became like a real grandma to me. She'd sign her emails, your Japanese grandma, which is very problematic for a Vietnamese kid because of the history of empire in World War II, if you trace this back. But I loved her. I truly loved her, and I love her daughter, Denise, who's like an auntie to me. And I even got to fly out to Hawaii, where Joy lived, in a nursing home, and play some of these old songs with her for a concert of veterans, Japanese-American soldiers, their kids, singing the old songs that she used to sing in this camp. And it was just this amazing experience of taking these stories and these songs. Joy said, go tell people, you know. I talked about people living in war, right? Limited agency. These people, maybe 2% of the agency that they would normally have behind barbed wire, but stretching that so much further than I do on a regular basis with all my anxiety and professional drama and whatever. Joy was so instructional to me. So I wrote the song for this band. I wrote it for Grandma Joy. I love taking it around. It's really one of the centerpieces of this whole project. And this tour is especially special because Joy passed away on December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas this last year. And I was lucky enough to talk to her a week before that. I hadn't talked to her in a while on the phone, but Denise, her daughter, told me she wasn't doing too well. So I called her up, and typical grandma shit till the end. And this is for her and her band, and it's called The Best Goddamn Band in Wyoming. The flyer red musicians needed, so young Yone grabbed a silver mouthpiece, tracked down a kid who brought a trumpet to Pomona, let Yone have it on a free 2-year lease. Joy Teraoka, Nate Takeshita, went to the tryout, she was only 16, with some girlfriends to cheer her on. Their club was called the Roddells. Mom said, if you keep up with school, Joy, you can sing. Georgie Gawa, Oji Nisei, he toured up the coast, he even played Japan. Before the war, they ripped up the Florida ballroom, and don't sleep on those Shotokians. And under starlight, they dance behind barbed wire. Under the mountain, it meant something to sing. Stuck between 2 countries in a fire, the best goddamn band in Wyoming. Little Ted's best show, rep the Cardiacs gang, the clarinet kid, the Nice Artie Shaw. Stopped by rehearsal in a tar paper beret. Once he joined up, oh sister, it was on. They practiced daily, geeked on the weekends, stirring up those dusty mess halls. Teenage bodies unchained from their parents. Man, them old folks, they really lost it all. The only swing band left in Wyoming that got them out some nights until dawn. War-bond drives and pal Mormons dancing in Lovell. Bunch of Japs playing jazz at the Thermopolis Prom. Under machine guns, they dance behind barbed wire. At Below Zero, kid, it means something to sing. Angelino's mixing up with farm kids in the choir. The best goddamn band in Wyoming. So Georgie Gower, he split for Chicago with Kamiko in the fall of 44. He left the band to Tets. Joy went with her family to D.C. As for Yoni, he had to join the war. And that's a story from old Wyoming, and the best band you never did see. Locked up in prison camps for no fucking reason, but they still found a reason to sing. The best goddamn band in Wyoming. 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 Thank you so much. All right. In lieu of a playbill, I'll just tell you what's going to go down here. We have 2 more songs, and then there is an encore scheduled. We're not going to walk backstage because I'm tired. I worked out on the elliptical at the hotel this morning, and I'm feeling it. So just if one person just says encore after the song after next, we'll just play a little bit more. We didn't realize we can't legally. I know I saw some people mouthing, and I think some people might have come from very far away. We can't legally sell you any merch in this campus. Ask my wife; she's a law student. But we were told if you follow her to the parking garage, you can buy some of the incredible shirts she designed in our new album, and I've signed a couple of them. Apologize for that. I guess we should have read the fine print. I guess she's a shitty lawyer, huh? Should have stayed in school. Are you coming out for this next one? Yeah. Are you? She's divorcing me.
I realize that's a mistake.
Well, it's too late for that now. It's been about an hour.
Yeah, so, anyone want to follow me to the parking lot?
Yeah.
All right, looks a couple hands. Yeah, I think if you just meet me at the front of the stage, I'll go backstage for a second, and then we can all do like a field trip over there together with the lovely Olivia.
Yeah, you're like the sweetest drug dealer in the history of the world. So we're gonna play our absolutely most depressing song now for you. So if you need to use the bathroom, it's a good time. So I've been doing this research about the best goddamn band in Wyoming, about a lot of old Chinese settlements out in Wyoming and Montana where I was living and rambling around. And then right after that ethnomusicology conference I told you all about, the one with the bunch of us talking about the plight of marginalized people while eating finger foods under chandeliers. Great chandeliers, by the way. I don't want to, if you're going to stay in D.C., the Hilton's excellent. Um, After that conference, I was really down. It might have been the election, didn't quite turn my way. Might have been other things. I was in the middle of doing a PhD, might have been that. But I was feeling real low. And part of it was I was at this crossroads. I was like, I don't even, like, what's the point of doing all this research right now with people talking about banning immigrants from even being able to set foot on this soil or because of their religion or what country they come from? Like, my mom was allowed here, but it wasn't because Vietnamese people were special. It's because we fucked up a war and we felt really bad about it. So it's just this period of American history where those particular immigrants were okay to come in. They're no different from the folks that we spent time with down at the border, or the people I was seeing on TV coming from Syria at the time, or the Rohingya folks being literally burnt out of their houses in Burma. All kinds of people all over the world. And it was really hitting me. And so I went home to Nashville. It was one of the last Christmas breaks I ever spent in Nashville before my mom sold the house and moved out to Portland. And I remember her cooking chaya. I'm pronouncing that wrong for you Vietnamese in the audience. Apologies. We're those like French colonial Vietnamese, so apologies. But she was cooking my favorite dish, chaya. It's like these little fried spring rolls. And I remember that smell from the other room. And I was doing real grad student stuff. I was putting on oral histories I'd collected and just typing out what people were saying. And I had my guitar with me because I was back home in Nashville. I just picked up my guitar, started singing what people were saying. And like that's how these songs just poured out. I went back to Brown. I had a dozen songs in my backpack. And then there was this guy who was super close to retirement. And he said, let me be your advisor and let's just sing your dissertation. Fuck it. And I don't have a job. Just that might be why. But I kept seeing all these pictures. Let me show you this picture. These are the boat people. There's about 1 million of these folks from Vietnam who were fleeing the communists under threat of persecution and perhaps death. And they would leave on these little rickety fishing boats, 200 people packed in. And half of them, some say, died because they were turned away from all these neighboring countries. Just they'd sail into a port and they'd get pushed back out. They'd be attacked by pirates. And sometimes the ships would just capsize. There were too many people and they'd be dying on top of each other. I was looking at these pictures and I was flabbergasted because I was seeing the exact same photographs of people coming on boats just like this, 200 people packed in from Syria and having no place to land, just being turned away, lost at sea, kids drowning. And that's when I started writing these songs. I wanted to, I don't know, communicate with more people than the 2.5 people that would have read my dissertation. So this song is, again, is maybe 1 million people who went through this, but it's one guy's story. Just dug it out of an old radio archive. This guy who made it to Montreal, Dr. Tran. And his story is truly cinematic. It deserves a movie, but you'll have to settle for a song. 40 years ago, the doctor left on a boat. He'd never seen the snow or felt it in his hand. Sail until you see dry land. I can't get off the news. I can't get off my floor. The good folks go inside when we need 'em most. What do prayers do behind locked doors? Tuan went back to rebuild, only to watch Saigon fall. Now he climbs up Mont Royal, makes a life in Montreal. Donated winter coats and Barbie dolls. I wrap myself in books They're talking about this band. I linger on bell hooks. She helped me to understand that some of this ain't new. No man. 14 hours by car, cargo trucks and cabs, just to shake the cops. But Mom had to stay back, a Chinese safe house and covered tracks, 18 meters long, 200 bodies full, a simple compass and a map from a kid's geography book. Forget Ferdinand or Captain fucking Cook. Bodies bobbing in a rough South China Sea. Came across a Thai pirate ship scavenging. They ripped the doctor from his kids, bleeding. And hours in the dawn, then tossed into the water. He swam back to his son. He held tight to his daughter, drifting through the night.
As the daylight broke,
A mountain in the dawn, off the Malaysian coast, sweet Pulau Bidong. He never cried so hard or so long. I can't get off the news, I can't get off my phone. My mother came here too, and that was 40 years ago. So if you see somebody's cold, you give them a cold. Yeah, that's a heavy one to sing. It was heavy to write back in 2016. I couldn't get through that one without crying. That first year I wrote it. And because all the shit we're seeing in the news these days, man, it's a tough one to sing now. Should we just die?
No, Julian, we should not.
Okay.
We should
thanks.
continue on.
All right, let's persevere. Remember, this is a beautiful moment. We get to listen to music together. That's about the most beautiful thing humans can do. Aside from maybe eating some good food and some R-rated things that freshmen haven't learned about yet. And you old people know what I'm talking about. And so this is a moment to celebrate. Apologize for the depressing history, but these are good things to know. It's good that you know about the boat people because they're still out there, coming from all over. Coming from Venezuela, they're coming from Palestine, they're coming from Myanmar, all over the place. And I'm not a big virtue signaler, but it's good to know, I believe. Sometimes I don't know why, but I think it is. And I'm going to carry on now. We're going to finish This is our last song, Wink, about people who some have ended up on those boats. Some of them made it over here to places like Houston, where part of this next song comes from. This band that was just incredible. Changed my life hearing their music. There's this recordings from the 60s and 70s. This band called the CBC Band, a family band from the north, originally came down after Ho liberated us from the French up there. And then they played for all these GIs in South Vietnam who wanted rock and roll music, but they took rock and roll music, the American, the music of the occupier, the British music, the American music, and they twisted it. And they put this incredible tonal language that we have on top of it. That happened all over the world. That's what Marley does. That's what Fela Kuti does in Africa. It's the best music because it's everything, and it's dark, and it's true, and it's fabulous. So some listening for you maybe. But I learned about this. I got turned on to the CBC band and all these old Vietnamese aunties and uncles who made this music because Amelia and I were in, well, this is before I met you, I guess. Recently we were there. Okay, let's rewind. I was originally went to Brown University not to do depressing Asian people music. That was not the goal. That was not what I applied with. I don't know why they let me in, honestly, because what I applied to do was study street musicians. And by going out there and being a street musician, the wacky college at Brown. And I thought I had it made. I'll be honest with you. I thought I had it made. I was going to get full funding from this rich-ass school every summer to go to Europe and just sing with my guitar on the street and hang out with all these weird-ass jugglers and mimes and go to all these crazy street musician parties and live in the cafes. And I did it that first year before the election, and I got depressed and thought I needed to write important music. But that first summer, I got fully funded to go to Paris, Milan, and Berlin and just have an Airbnb with my name on it and go out in the street and just sing to people and have these wild adventures. And it was beautiful, my friends. And there was a book there. There was a really good book called The Busker. All these crazy adventures, playing on the street, running from French cops, flirting with beautiful French ladies. It was a thing. And I fucked it up, and I ended up doing this. On that first visit, I'm in Paris, right? This is sort of my second home. This is where all my family from Vietnam moved to. My mom came to America. She came to this crazy state called Pennsylvania for college. But everyone else were refugees to France. And so we speak French. We don't speak any Vietnamese, me and my cousins. And my mom said, hey, there's this guy named Robert. And I went to high school with him, and we actually reconnected recently, the way old people do through Facebook, because he found your old band, your indie rock band's record in the Paris library. And he saw your name, and he knew that was my married name, and wow, what a cool way to reconnect. So he wants to meet you. He loves music. And I was like, I don't know if I want to, I'm out being a little rascal gadabout in Paris. I want to just live my life and don't want to meet old people. And she said, he owns a restaurant. I said, I'm there. Absolutely. Let's go. And so I kind of stroll up to this restaurant real casual like, right? Because in Nashville, there was maybe one or two Vietnamese restaurants, and they were just both in strip malls. And I did not know that they could be anything besides really great bowls of soup and incredible lemongrass flavored food with for more than like $10. And it turns out, as I'm rolling up in Paris in my very American bro tank top outfit with my salmon colored shorts and my flip flops, that Robert owns the nicest Vietnamese restaurant in Paris, which if you haven't been is an obnoxiously nice city. But all is forgiven because Robert truly loves music. And he was in a band. He was in a band like the one I show you behind me. It's the middle of the jungle in Laos or Cambodia or Vietnam back in the day. And we were talking, Robert and I, across white tablecloths. I didn't know Vietnamese people served food on white tablecloths till then. And he's telling me this incredible story because he had been asking me about being on tour and playing these big festivals in Europe, and he just loves music and art so much. And I was like, no, Robert, I'm here to learn about what it was like to be a kid in Saigon, living during a war and stuff. That was this wild shit, man. And he's like, yeah. But like Nicolene and his dad, like my mom, doesn't really want to talk about that stuff. But then he says something that really, again, changed my life. He said, I was in a band. Oh, okay. Now I got to weigh in. Like that Georgie Gawa orchestra that I found. This is one of my people. This is one of my lineage. He says, I was in a band. It wasn't a big band like yours. We didn't play original songs or, have a record out or anything. But, the Americans came over, the GIs, and they poured all this money into buying us instruments, like anything we wanted, Vox guitar amps, Fender guitars, Pearl drum sets, whatever we wanted. And we just had to learn these rock and roll songs for him. And Robert loved that music, right? He was very pro-North, pro-communist, but also very pro-American because he loved rock and roll. And he told me this amazing story as if it was nothing, because Robert's a cool motherfucker. I can't tell you how cool he is. We were just there visiting him last summer, and Amelia's like...
Well, Robert goes into the kitchen to grab us a bottle of champagne named after Wagner's wife, because he's just a really cultured guy like that.
Yeah.
And while we're sitting there, we're looking at this painting like, is that a Basquiat? But no way, that'd be crazy, right?
I was like, no, that's some kid's finger painting, I think. Yeah. But he comes back out. It's like, Robert, that looks like a Basquiat painting. And he's like, yeah, it's one of two that I got. It's like, motherfucker. I was like, you should be serving nicer champagne. And he said, yeah, I got in early. That's what he said. And he said he was a real dickhead, but a great painter. That's the kind of guy Robert is, serving stale pretzels and very nice champagne under Basquiat's. So Robert's kind of casually telling me the story. I was in a band, and we used to load our gear into the helicopter as if that's a normal way to get to a gig. And we'd pile drum sets and amps, and there'd be a bunch of prostitutes and piles of drugs, and we'd fly over the jungle as if that's where you fly to a gig, and the VC would be shooting at us, and we'd dodge it, whatever. And then we'd land in this clandestine army base in the middle of the jungle while the world was on fire around us, and we'd play the fucking Doors. And that's where this song comes from. Had to write it. This is called The Imperial Twist. It's our last song of the evening.
I was, pro-communist and extremely pro-American because I really love rock and roll.
Can you give the world a twist just by doing the twist? At the moment the bomb went off, they were playing Purple Haze. I met Robert at his restaurant, Septième arrondissement. The doors still echo in the jungle. He said your mother brought back 45s from Paris in 65, and we learned them note for note. Some broken English rolling stones, Fenders, girls and dope. America provides. Oh, 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 Saigon teens. Oh, 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 Saigon teens. Can you give the world a twist? Can you save the world with acid rock? I didn't know my mother's maiden name. that time in Texas when we was detained. Man, I've been back to old Saigon, but how much of you is lost when they change your name? Oh, oh, Saigon teens. Oh, oh, Saigon teens. Oh, oh, Saigon teens. Oh, Saigon teens. It was half a world away. The band got back on stage for decades to the day. Purple haze. That means a lot. Thank you so much. So this is our last tour that we're doing. Amelia's got to become a lawyer, and because one of us got to make some money. And I was asking people who were coming to shows if there were any requests, and this was one that was requested for this show. So I really hope you're here, because I had to learn it this morning. This is actually one of my favorite songs from the new album. Amelia did not learn it this morning, so she's going to take a breather, come back for one more. Yeah, it's just really long, and musically just does the same thing, so we don't play it very much, but it's some of my favorite lyrics. So apologies for the repetition of the chords, but if you're a lyric person, I think you're going to like this one. This is another one of those Vietnam songs. Like when you really sit down and think about, we're so lucky as Americans, and I'm coming from just Portland, Oregon, which is just rah rah riot all the time on the left, and just very abstract yelling and a lot of that aforementioned virtue signaling, and it's tough because I'm kind of Southern twice over, Southern Vietnamese and from the South, and you know what civil wars are like if you come from those people. My mom can't go home. Imagine that because of a civil war. Because people let their politics get so out of hand and then have these other people come in and stir shit up that you can't even go home again. That's the real cost, right? And I take that shit seriously when we can't get along in this country, where we have everything. Have you looked at your cereal aisle lately? Seriously, next time you go to the grocery store, there's 100 fucking cereals. That's amazing. It's like horrible and capitalist or whatever, but it's amazing. I don't take that lightly. I don't take the cereal aisle lightly. I don't take not being behind barbed wire lightly or on a goddamn boat where no one will take me into their harbor. I don't take my mom's life lightly, and I have so much respect for her. And this thing about her and her people and all these other people that can't ever go home again. But there's still something there. Home's just with you, right? And that's a great burden to carry if you have to keep your home with you at all times. So this is called Nothing Left But You. What perfect harmony still shakes me to the core, begot this cynic soul to rumble. It was in your voice. I had no choice but to rise and ring out too. When those records play, all the clutter fades away. And there is nothing left but you. There are no labors that can reset space or time. It's beyond sacrifice or school. You know, I've learned a lot. I've given up almost all I got. I keep a passport I can't use, and there's no soil to kiss. Some old borders don't exist. No, there is nothing left but you. Ain't there some crest of a wave, way out on the sea, in the back of a Godhead's ocean of ancient memory, that lifts some sacred boat, or its sailor, at least his charming ghost, who earned your heart when it was first free. He was callous and cruel, but he bought your faith and he saw it through. To own the past, forgive the fool. What steady rhythm still doth move me at this hour, to put my pen to page and pray for the reconciled, to crack a joke and catch a smile. Why keep my fingers clenched, dear muse? Because once I died and I came out the other side, and there was nothing left but you. Thank you very much. This is our last song. Thank you so much for having us. There are no bridges to the past. Don't fool yourself when you look back. The time is up, those days are gone. We have for now, but not for long. You pass it on, then pass it by. Kiss me goodnight. 3 stripes on a yellow cloth, a fake tattoo that won't wash off. You are more than what you lost. Kiss me goodnight. I met you being the temple back in San Francisco. She put my mind to ease. I sit here from my privileged throne, just painting scars and tossing bones. I make puppets of your dead, a fetish for my bookish head. What part of history may I take? Only the part which you might make. Ooh. Kiss me goodnight. Ooh. Kiss me